So who are DreamKids, this population of youth that evolution mentoring is designed to so perfectly match and meet the needs of? And are you raising one? Is your son or daughter one of these growing number of youth? And even though it's a small segment of the population, I'm finding more and more of them out there. So I'm going to describe this to you, and I'm going to put it into 4 distinct categories. And you need to understand that one of the types of youth who evolution mentoring are for only need to fit into one of these first 4 categories I'm going to speak of. They may overlap. They may show up in 2 or 3 different ones, but most of them, it really is only in one of them. And then the last 2 are something that they all share in common. So I want to begin first and foremost by speaking about the social and interpersonal category. These are young people who, unlike these images which reflect let's say the typical teenager in today's world, they're not bad kids, they're just typical kids. They're text messaging, they're talking on their phones, they're partying and drinking and hooking up and playing video games and participating in gossip and that stuff. Well, again, on the surface, the type of youth that evolution mentoring is for may look like these kids. As soon as you get beneath the surface, though, you begin to find that they're actually looking for something more. They're actually looking to be able to have deeper connections and real conversation with people. They're looking to have more interesting intellectual conversations. They're not looking to just hook up, but they actually want a connection. They want to explore boyfriend-girlfriend relationships and real intimacy. They want to have relationships with adults that are meaningful relationships that offer them the kind of guidance and the kind of stimulating conversation that's very difficult to get amongst their peers. That picture that's in the lower right corner there, I find amongst many boys where they're really yearning to be able to have this deeper connection with their male friends, but so much of it is based on sarcasm and competition. But the type of youth that evolution mentoring are for, the type of people who are really trying to find more of these relationships that are more like brothers, these deep, meaningful relationships and friendships with one another. If this is describing your teen, if they're often describing how shallow and superficial the world is, or how frustrating, how difficult it is to find real love or real connection or real stimulating conversation, I'm probably speaking about your son or daughter when I talk about who evolution mentoring is for. The second category is intellectual. These are the youth who are unlike so many of today's youth who are sitting in school and are oftentimes bored out of their mind. They're really truly seeking to understand the world. They're seeking to truly learn and know things. They actually want to be intellectually stimulated. And some of them, that comes in the form of school. I have certain clients who've said to me, am I weird that I actually like school or I love math? I had one who on his own arranged an internship in robotics at MIT on his own, contacted graduate students and got an opportunity to go do this. And it was something that he was fascinated by and driven by. These are the kind of kids who are spending a lot more time, instead of being like your typical youth in society who's spending a whole lot of time watching VH1 and MTV. These are the ones who are watching the Discovery Channel. Instead of being like a typical teen girl or typical youth who's reading magazines like 17, these are the ones who are looking forward to reading the New York Times online or the Sunday paper. Instead of just spending their time watching YouTube videos. It's not that these youth don't do that from time to time, but they're also visiting websites like TED and seeking out intelligent conversation, intelligent ideas. And while, of course, they have their laptops and they spend their time chatting and connecting with their friends socially, I'm never surprised to find out how much they love reading books. And an interesting trend is how many of them are really into reading fantasy or reading some of the, perhaps, because they're young, maybe some of the more simplified versions of some of the complex ideas in the world, but reading some of the business books and some of the bigger selling nonfiction books that are out there. So again, while these young people participate in watching some of the same shows and doing some of the same activities online as your typical teenager does, there's also this side of them that is seeking and wanting to learn and understand more. If this is your son or daughter, somebody who's seeking to have greater intellectual stimulation, to seek out intelligent ideas, intelligent conversation, evolution mentoring is exactly what is designed for a youth or a son or daughter like you have. So now we go into the category of the physical. So we hear all these statistics and all these numbers about young people and their complacency and the time they spend sitting on the couch and the drug use and being overweight. But these young people, the ones who fit in this particular category, are the ones who are extremely physically active to the point where they're pushing themselves hard. They're the ones who are, very often I'm finding out, they don't just run, but they're long-distance runners. They're not just playing on the team, but they're seeking to get scholarships or to play college level sports or Division I sports. They don't just go to the gym. They push themselves hard and work with personal trainers, or they're into activities like rock climbing, mountain biking, alternative types of sports. They get out on the ski slopes and they can ski for 12 hours at a time. And they're in their bliss when they're out there in their physical world. And while, of course, they like winning, they like participating on a team, they like the accomplishment, the feeling of thrill that comes from that, more than anything, they're just deeply satisfied when they're actually in their physical activity. They tend to be extremely health conscious. This is one segment of the population that evolution mentoring is for. Again, your youth does not need to fit into all three of these categories, only one of them. But if I'm describing your son or daughter, this is the kind of service that's for them. They're seeking more. They want the mental edge. They want the experience of having really pushed themselves to the limit, not just to be good, but to find out how good they can be when they pursue excellence in their best. The fourth category is in the field of creativity. So often these young people are the ones who are seeking to have the experience of expressing and pushing the limits of themselves through creativity, through music, through art, through film. But they also tend to be very much drawn towards the opportunity to study like some of the brilliant artists and musicians who are out there and collecting music and learning and writing about them. I've had clients who have DJ'd radio shows, written blogs, and interestingly enough, so many of them speak to them how much they love a comedian who's just like razor sharp wit, like somebody like a George Carlin. If this is your son or daughter, that they just can't put the guitar down, or they're always walking around with their sketchbook, and this is their way of feeling, really, really connected in the world, this is who it's for. This is who evolution mentoring is for. So now let me talk to you about whether, no matter which category they come from, social, intellectual, physical challenge, or creative, it doesn't matter which one that they are most drawn from. Let me tell you the two things they share in common. They like to be challenged. First and foremost, they love to be pushed. They don't want to just be like everybody else. They want to be able to take a stance. They want their stance to be challenged and stimulated. I can't tell you how many times they'll say things to me like, I don't like what you're saying, but I know it's what I need to hear. They seek out and appreciate having great coaches or great teachers. They love it when they throw an idea out at me and I challenge their ideas. And even though they'd rather hear somebody say, gee, that's great, and pat them on the back, they actually much further appreciate having somebody give them honest, critical feedback because they want to be challenged. They don't want to just settle for mediocrity or being good enough. And the second thing that they all share in common, whether it's from the social interpersonal side, the intellectual side, the physical challenge side, or the creative side, is what I'm calling an aesthetic appreciation, a desire for an aesthetic stimulation, aesthetic fulfillment. What I did was I actually emailed a whole bunch of my clients and I said, send me an image that really reflects to you what it's all about, what it is you could say in a way that speaks to your soul. And I want to show you some of the images that they sent me, because you'll notice that as you go through these images, these are not pictures of somebody smoking a marijuana leaf listening to Bob Marley music, nor is it kids who are sagging their pants. This is images and things that really reflect something that's deep inside them about these are the moments that life is really about. This is what I'm really seeking. This next image is actually a girl who, when everybody else was reading Cosmo and 17 magazine when she was a teenager because they wanted to know what clothes to be wearing, she was using it to stimulate ideas about things that she ultimately would love to see in the fashion stores. And she's gone on in pursuit of a career in fashion and now is successfully working in New York City in the field of fashion, literally getting multiple job offers in a market where other people are not getting any job offers. It's this aesthetic thing. It's not about how do I look good and fit in, but about how do I get to be myself? Where do I most feel alive? When I'm out fishing. This is a boy who couldn't wait to get out of school every single day to just go out and be out there by himself by the water. Here's one who sent me an image and he says, this is from a park nearby where he lives, where he would oftentimes go and just sit next to the park, even whether it was raining out or sunny out. And he says, I call this sanctuary. This is a girl who sends me a picture of the summer camp that she grew up going to because it symbolized for her what life was really supposed to be about, to be able to just be with friends and connect with people in a meaningful way. And ultimately, when she became a counselor, to be able to do work where she felt she could pass on the things that she'd learned in her life. This is a picture of Muir Beach in Northern California, where a young man sends me a picture. He's a competitive biker, and we're very often on his biking or his long-distance runs, he would actually go out to this beach, and it was for him the reward of having come up over the mountain and pushed through the other side. And whenever he looks at this image, it reminds him of what it's all about. What more do I need to say? Rather than being drunk and doing drugs and getting high, which is what this boy used to do before we started working together, now he goes out there and he climbs the trees and he jumps into the water and just feels the thrill of being alive. While everybody else around him is still doing drugs all the time, he's discovered what it is for him to really live his life on a high. This is a girl who sends me a picture from her college window, and she says, every night I look out the window and I see this beautiful sunset over the mountains, and I think to myself, what did I do to deserve such a life, to be so fortunate to have the friends I have, the family that I have, the opportunities that I have, in spite of everything that's happened in my life, that I have this moment right now. And she's been through some very difficult things in her life. But this is it for her, is that being able to look at that sunset and making a point to do this every single day. It's a guy who lives in New York City and joins up with a group of people who are constantly into doing creative, spontaneous art and art projects around the city. Sends me these images to really reflect for him, this is what it's all about. It's to make sure that I always live my life with this kind of aesthetic to it. This young man sends me a picture of him with his grandfather and the relationship that he shares with his grandfather, because for him, that's what it's all about. And another one who sends me not just a picture of the redwood forest, but of the mist in the redwood forest. And that in the most challenging moments, he always comes back to remembering that mist in the redwood forest, that moisture that's in the air that feeds these trees and keeps them alive. And oftentimes in the most minute particles are the things that he finds for himself, what really feeds him in his soul to make him feel most fulfilled in his life. Am I describing your son or daughter? Are they this kind of person who has those moments of just reflecting and appreciating the outdoors, or appreciating these people in their life? Because if so, evolution mentoring is for them. This is the DreamKids. I'll share with you a personal picture. It's the only picture I have of myself on Facebook. And I tell people when they ask about this picture, the two most important people in the world are in this picture. And they're both looking at me in that picture. One of them is my little daughter standing next to me on the shore of Lake Tahoe. And the other is the woman who took the picture, my wife. And a standard that I've set for my own life is to make every single decision as if the two of them were in the room watching me doing what I was doing, and say, is this allowing me to be the man I want to be if I do what I'm about to do? And to live a life with that kind of aesthetic appreciation is something that speaks so deeply to so many of the young people for whom evolution mentoring is for. So whether your son or daughter is one who is just seeking to have more depth and more fulfillment in their social and their personal life, whether they're seeking to have more intellectual and intelligent conversation, intellectual stimulation in their life, whether they are the type of person who's pursuing the physical challenge that's possible in life to see how far they can go, because it's only in that experience of being really physical that they feel the most alive, or whether they have that creative sense to them. Ultimately, this is the kind of service that is for them. This is the kind of thing that they're not getting in other places. It offers them the challenge that they want, and it teaches them how to have this aesthetic life where they can be the kind of person who they are, live and function in the ordinary world, go to school, brush shoulders with all the people around them, but ultimately to be able to develop the kind of quality of life that they really want to have. So am I describing your son or daughter? Does this look like them? Does this sound like them? Is this the kind of thing that they would look at and say, that's the kind of person I want to be friends with? Because if so, you should consider contacting me and pursuing evolution mentoring for them. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, that it's helped answer some questions for you. And I'm telling you, if you hear me in this describing your son or daughter, contact me and begin the conversation about how we can bring evolution mentoring into their life. I assure you they will thank you for it. And thank you for your time today.